Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us for today's webinar, Operational 3D Digital Twins, Providing Contextual Awareness for Critical Assets. My name is Nicole Bamford, and I'm the moderator for today's session. On behalf of GE Digital and the OGIQ teams, we thank you for joining us today. This session will be presented by David Reinhardt, co-founder and EVP at Visionaize, Vipin Nair, Senior Staff Digital Product Manager at GE Digital, and their presentation promises to be well worth the listen. Before we get started, here are some quick administrative points. During the webinar, if you have questions for our presenters, please submit them in the Q&A box on your screen. These will be answered during the question portion of the webinar. Likewise, for any technical issues, please write them into the Q&A section and we'll get to them right away. You will notice the widgets on your screen can be resized and dragged around for your viewing preferences, and I encourage you to visit the Resource Center on your screen for additional content and links we and our sponsors have provided for you. So make sure you're sitting comfortably, and I'll now hand it over to Vipin so we can begin.
Thank you, Nicole. Again, hello all. Thank you for joining. Right? Thank you for giving us your time. We are all busy, but again, thank you for giving your time here. So again, before we get started about an operational 3D digital twin, just wanted to give you some context on how GE Digital and Visionaize decided to partner, right? As most of you would be aware, GE Digital have a comprehensive asset performance management toolkit, right, which is a suite of solutions to manage the reliability and integrity of your assets once it's installed. So a couple of years back, we went back to our user community and kind of started discussing what is the next thing that we should be bringing to the table, right? And one thing was very clear was the ability to have a contextual visualization, right? And when we talk about visualization, there's various types of visualization, like a query, a graph, a dashboard. These are all various forms of visualization. But one thing is which is critical as we get into the next generation of asset performance management is the way to contextualize it. And that's where we went into, okay, we need to have a way of visualizing it in a 3D perspective and have a 3D digital twin, right? So then we went into the market. We decided that we'll not build it because there are other companies who are very good at it, right? So GE Digital went out, checked for multiple companies which are good at this, which is having a 3D digital twin capability. And then we finally decided to partner with Visionaize. And what we have here is their capability of, the 3D visualization and AI, which Dave will talk about. But it's also now adding the power of grabbing the information from APM and putting it on top of that 3D model. So I think that's what we are going to cover, and we will be stressing on the fact on what is an operational 3D digital twin versus a CAD/CAM 3D model, right, from a design perspective. So with that, I would like to welcome David again. I would like to thank his time and hand it over to you for covering the slides from here. Thank you, David.
Great. Thanks, Vipin. And thank you, Nicole, for the introductions. And, I really like what Vipin said. When we think about, digital twin, there's certainly a lot of definitions out there. And we talk about an operational digital twin, it really gets to the core of how we run and maintain facilities, how we operate from, startup to even through decommissioning. And so it's that operational digital twin, the ability to use the twin and the visualization in a day-to-day environment. And so we'd really like to start by defining, what is digital twin? And we actually like the definition a lot of Colin Paris, CTO of GE Digital. And he defines a digital twin as a living learning model. It's a twin, it's a replica. It gives you insight so you can take action. And of course, I'm paraphrasing. And I really like that definition. We like that definition a lot. But when we come together and when Visionaize couples with that definition, we really begin to augment that and add to it by adding that immersive 3D model, that advanced visualization, some of the stuff that Vipin was talking about. So we can visualize, real-time analytics and historian data, maybe things like damage mechanisms and other things that we'll talk about a bit later. And this whole platform now becomes something that we can use for other advanced solutions for other parts of the operation. And so when we talk about digital twin, this is really what we're referring to. from an operations standpoint. And so when GE and Visionaize came together, what we're delivering is the vSuite application that integrates and provides advanced visualization in that 24/7 environment. So this is the operational component. Always having the data available to you online 24/7. It's intuitive, it's data-driven, and it integrates to APM and other critical business systems to provide that contextualization and the real-time awareness of different things. This then becomes now the platform where we can do other role-based things like maintenance, turnaround planning, corrosion planning, things like this. And then, of course, one of the things that is really important with an operational digital twin is being able to deploy it rapidly and then maintain and sustain it as the facility changes, being able to keep it evergreen and synchronized with changes to these complex facilities as they change over time. And all of this gives us that situational awareness and what we mean by an operational digital twin and what vSuite delivers with integration with APM and other business systems. So the way in which we deploy this, and this is something that working with GE, we deploy vSuite in what we call a starter. And initially, this is an integration with APM. We display corrosion loop circuits. You can locate your CMLs and TMLs, and then dynamically display and access things like damage mechanisms, corrosion rates, et cetera. And so we can basically start small. We can, deliver with, lots of great value on the starter, and then we can move this up to a pro, where we can actually expand to other business systems, integrate to all of those systems of record, and then having other additional role-based solutions like maintenance, turnaround, other things I mentioned before. At the professional level, we also have this ability to do what we call model management of change. This is where we can keep the model updated and synchronized. And then, of course, at the enterprise level, this would be a multi-site, almost a system of systems, a nested twins, if you will. And then we're actually moving towards visualizing simulations, et cetera, at the pro level. And so we can start small. The idea is we can start small, add value, and then as the solution grows or as you roll out over different locations or more assets, we have the ability to scale that very rapidly within the enterprise. So it's a great way of beginning to deploy. So let's talk about then how APM and vSuite Visionaize come together and where we focus today and where it's going. So as you know, APM has a lot of great solutions, a lot of depth across diagnostics, reliability, safety, lots of great functionality. So where we're focusing today with GE is on the integrity side. We're focused on things like the corrosion loops, the circuits, things like this, and we're getting a lot of great traction in that area. But we're already beginning to expand that and work across other areas of data that resides within APM. Things like health, smart signal, other things. And so that visualization really is not limited today, but today we're really focused on the APM integrity space, and that's the starter that I mentioned earlier. And so we'll give you some examples of that. So again, on the starter, we have already the out-of-the-box integration with APM, and we'll take a look at some of those use cases around risk, corrosion, et cetera, for that. So the first example we have is a risk overview of a unit. This would be the risk data that you would see in APM. A lot of great data in here. So we have all of our assets. We've got the risk matrix, the criticality of these different things, and all of this data is dynamically available to the APM user, and a lot of good information. Now, when we start to add the visualization, this is where the first example of where vSuite comes in. So we have this dynamic 3D model. We can essentially query on demand that same criticality that would be coming from APM. So we would drill into one of our asset models, and then by querying the model, we can say, okay, show me the risk matrix, show me the probability and consequence, or the different risk categories that I have in APM. And through the display manager, we're reaching in, getting the data, and then displaying that based on color codes or however the user defines it. And so this is an example of how that visualization would look using the APM data directly within vSuite. So the next example we have as part of Starter would be the corrosion loop. Again, we're focused on the mechanical integrity pieces. So with inside of APM, we have the loop overviews. We've got the damage mechanism, the loop details, things like remaining life, minimum thickness, this kind of thing. So all the good data that you need to be able to manage these assets and manage risk. And then now let's take a look at that same loop inside of vSuite. And so we have the circuit identified, we have end-to-end, we have the dynamic 3D model that has all of the assets, the TMLs, et cetera. And what really makes this more valuable is this data, it all resides within the context of the facility. So we get to see the adjacent structures, the adjacent loops, other things that might be in the area that can help us plan, execute, and then analyze that corrosion data or that corrosion loop as part of our normal operating procedures. And this is really what's important, because putting it into context with the rest of the facility, we have clients in this space that are telling us, an hour in vSuite working in this way is like 8 hours in the field, being able to walk the lines down, track it, understand, do I need scaffold, how do I access it, all of these kind of things. So we're really helping them not only just understand the loops, but then plan that work for themselves, their contractors, and then analyze the data after the fact. And so looking at the loops also, we can configure it for different kinds of symbology, for example, maybe different color coding to show dead legs, different symbols for things like UT and RT readings. And all of this, again, dynamically displayed based on what kind of work has to be done and the timetable that's coming out of APM. And this is part of what we call an advanced work pack. And this is the part of that contextualized view that's available to the users in a web, either in the mobile application or at the desktop. And so this is all part of that knowledge view that's available to the end user. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. When we think about the loops, we also must think about the asset thickness data, the TMLs, those readings. And we see the TML IDs, all of the good data that exists, corrosion rates, remaining life, all based on the assets and based on the loops inside of APM. And so now let's take a look at that same loop, that same circuit with inside of vSuite. And so we can interact with the model now, and we can click on a TML, for example, and we can select one of these TMLs and then dynamically reach directly inside of APM and access all of that same data while viewing the circuit. And again, this can be done in real time. We're not replicating the data, so as information changes and gets updated in APM, it's automatically available in real time with inside vSuite. So we can dynamically access that data, understand what we have to do, how we have to inspect, et cetera, all in a dynamic 3D model. And so these are some of the initial use cases that we see with Starter. And so we'll move to some of the professional or the pro examples. Go ahead, Vipin.
David, just want to add before you got into the professional is, if you can go back one slide, just quick. One thing which is really powerful is that even though in APM, we have, say, multiple modules, like, say, thickness monitoring for managing the corrosion rate management, right? RBI for calculating the risk, inspection for managing the findings and recommendation. But one thing which we can do is that consolidate information. So when you're looking at asset, like let's say this is the 3D digital twin of that asset, we can kind of combine all the information coming from APM in one place, right? It could be anything ranging from RBI, TM, and inspection. And as I said, we can expand even into the work history that is coming from your CMMS system. So you have it all in one place, rather than you're navigating between multiple databases, right? Again, I would like to say it's again, consolidating information with the context just, makes the life of even an analyst or an inspector or a planner a lot easier than it is today. Yeah, just wanted to add, Dave, that it can be expanded across multiple workplaces, and it's truly a 3D digital twin of that asset across, right? It's a 360 view of that asset.
That's a really good point, Vipin. And so what we see here in the flyout on the right, this is part of the out-of-the-box solution, is part of the out-of-box configuration. But as Vipin said, any other data that resides there, as we scroll down, we would see other tabs or other pieces of information that could reach into anywhere within APM. So that's a really good point. We're focused on this TML here, but this is completely configurable. We've got really seamless integration with all that good APM data. So depending on the use case and how you want to deploy, that could be the setup. And what's nice about that is it's not bespoke. It'd be something that configuration, as you roll out additional units or you expand and change, it's all there for you regardless of which asset you're dealing with. So that's a good point, Vipin. So let me jump ahead, then we'll move on to some of the pro features we talked about, then other integrations. When we talk about other kinds of use cases, and again, we really think about an operational digital twin as providing a role-based access to meaningful data. It's the data I need to accomplish my work, whether I'm planning or executing a maintenance and operations routine. Maybe I'm a contractor, a new operator. How do I access the data I need to do my work and go from planning to execution or incident to resolution? And so we'll talk about some of those other kind of use cases. So one of the first ones we often think about are an operational use case where we might look at real-time data. Maybe we have sensors or access to things like, something like a pi tag data or some IoT information. And so those sensors can be placed directly in the model and have integrated to that live data. And then we can visualize based on queries. We can say, for example, I could ask the model to show me, my assets that are operating normally and color code them green. If I'm having some excursions or some irregularities, maybe highlight those in yellow. And then if I have going outside of my operating windows, highlight those in red. And so these are the kind of queries that I can visualize and go from dashboard to really dynamically visualizing and understanding which assets are being affected, maybe which sensors are the key indicators or the outliers, and then what assets are being connected and affected. So this would be one of the operational access or one of those operational visualizations examples. So we take that a bit further. We might look at real-time data and analytics, and we might think about maybe how we might work with Smart Signal or how we might visualize other kind of data. And so when we drill into our operational model, one of the things again we could do is let's see, show me where the tags are, and then maybe I want to overlay that with the risk criticality or the health or certain damage mechanisms, whatever the kind of query I wanted to look at. So this might be a query that says, show me real-time data and show me the health of these different assets. And then maybe I have some problems going on with this pump. And so drilling down, I might drill into this. And to Vipin's example earlier, maybe I could reach in and I could get perhaps a recommendation or a prediction of failure or some other information that might be coming out of an APM, a Smart Signal type solution. And so these are all the kind of data that I can bring together in a single view to really get that situational awareness that we were talking about from an operations and a maintenance or planning perspective. So when we look a bit further now, maybe we know we have issues and we have maybe a turnaround or some regular maintenance activities planned. Oftentimes we integrate with things like a scheduling system, maybe a Primavera or a Microsoft project, and we have certain activities that need to be planned and executed. Or maybe we have health information that says, hey, I'm having issues with this exchanger flow rate. And so I have maybe this is going to be color coded red and the one next to it is orange because it's beginning to show signs. And so those are the things that we can colorize and visualize. And one of the things that's really important about the operational twin within vSuite is then the ability to capture knowledge. As we see a retiring workforce or new contractors coming in, understanding, what's the best practice when I have to maintain or work with this asset? How do I go about isolating that, and what is my procedure? Oftentimes, this will exist in our maintenance programs. We might have it in SAP or other applications, and so what is the process to go about and isolate this and perform that activity? We can actually show those steps directly inside of what we call a knowledge view. We can have integrations to the interactive technical manuals or other information sources that would allow us to have certainty with which we would go about and make those maintenance activities. What I like about this example is this exchanger here we see is color-coded red. There are some issues with it. But we can see also the exchanger right next to it is already color-coded orange. There's beginning to be some problems. So the planner might look at this and have that context and understand, hey, if I'm going to service this one, I'm going to have people, resources, and maybe, production halted for a while I do this work, we might as well do the one that's adjacent during this planning phase. So I get that context and I'm able to do that. I can also look at maybe the TMLs in this area. Since I'm going to have these pipes out of service, I might as well inspect those. So that's all part of that knowledge capturing and sharing. That's all extremely intuitive and consolidated within the digital twin to facilitate things like turnaround planning or regular maintenance activities. So when we look further at those two exchangers, we can also reach into other kinds of data. And so with these, we support what we call temporary assets. And these are also data driven. So when we think about planning activities around these exchangers, one of the things we might need is scaffold. And so with our maintenance module as part of Pro, we can locate scaffolding and have those locations again tied to a schedule. And so if the scaffold is erected, it's signed off, it can be visualized in the 3D model, and then we can see, okay, I have some scaffold here. I might also want to run a query that says, show me other inspection or other activities I might have planned in the next 6 months that I could take advantage of this scaffold and use that today. And so now I can begin to consolidate activities in a way that would help me optimize my execution. So I spend more time working instead of planning or moving scaffold from here to there and then back again in 6 months when I need that activity. Other kinds of things that we can display through temporary assets would be things like heavy equipment. If I have certain equipment in the area, we can, this can be located and shown as a temporary asset. We can move it around, show where the boom is going to be, make sure we have appropriate clearances. Again, all part of that maintenance turnaround so I can communicate to my team. I can do my planning. Something else we can do is we tie physical work areas or safety zones to the model, and we can visualize and see, maybe I want to see, show me in green area where I have low activity, yellow where we have moderate things planned, or maybe highlighted red where we have heavy equipment or maybe some x-rays or other hazardous activities going on. So I can see right inside of the twin these different functions. So before I mobilize, I can have a better sense of what's going on in the field and plan it or mitigate my potential pinch points or hazard areas by working around it or accessing things differently. And we have many clients that are actually tying this kind of visualization directly to their turnaround planning or their maintenance schedules, and part of their daily stand-up meetings, viewing the model and having a real sense of what's going on in the field before getting the hard hats on and going and signing into the control room. So other kinds of temporary assets, things that would add value would be things like maybe hot taps or pipe clamps, things that are maybe giving us a sense of where we might have some vulnerability in our facility, things that would give us a sense of other things going on in the site that would provide me that situational awareness. Things like a radiation zone, a blast zone, high noise areas, show me where the nearest safety showers are, the egress routes, shelter in place. All of these things can be shown as temporary assets and be highlighted and displayed in different workspaces or different views, depending on the activity involved or needed. And so again, all part of the maintenance turnaround, things that can be supporting those different kind of planning and execution phases of work. We think about different activities. Of course, the documentation is also important. There can be documents in all different kinds of systems, including APM. And so imagine just clicking on an asset and say, show me the PNID for this circuit. Show me the operator manual or the data sheet. Give me the interactive technical manual for this process. And so, again, through integration with document management programs, even unstructured data, we can reach directly into those documents from the 3D model and access the kind of things that we need, again, to do the planning and the execution of these critical activities in a very efficient way. Part of being what's a true operational digital twin. So, if I had to summarize it, what is that operational digital twin? We talked about it a bit before. It really begins with pairing the physical world with a 3D integrated operational model, and then contextualizing that and integrating it with all that good data with an APM, data lakes, data warehouses, things like documentation, sensors, edge computing, even AI. All of this stuff comes together in a way. It all ties back to that asset. It ties back to the physical facility, the assets that we're working with, and the way in which where we need to work with it. If I'm the corrosion engineer, I need to see circuits and loops. If I'm the maintenance manager, I need to understand work zones and schedules. And so it's important that how that integrates. Now, how do we get there? It's important also, and I mentioned early on, that we can build this out rapidly and deploy it. So what we can do is we can take engineering CAD models, things that have been used for decades now for the design build phase. We can upgrade those and we can get them ready to work regardless of their source in the way in which we talked about today. And where you don't have facility models, where you don't have those engineering files, we have robust tools right inside of the software that consume things like laser data, LiDAR information, scan and drone information, and bringing all this together in a way to not only create a very accurate as-is 3D model, but then maintain and sustain it. So a mix of these over time allow us to keep that model evergreen, again, without ever taking it offline. And that's part of the secret sauce that we deliver is the ability to robustly deliver this and maintain it in an environment that's also ever changing. And then part of the other part of that secret sauce is then delivering that in a role-based way. If I'm an APM user, again, I want to see the circuits. I want to see my 3D work package with my corrosion loops and my TMLs. If I'm the maintenance manager, maybe I want to see, again, my different work zones and my hazards and the things taking place. And something that we didn't talk about also is then how do I consume that? We can deliver this on-prem. We can deliver in the cloud. We have virtual reality and augmented reality solutions. And so you can consume the data all from that same digital twin in a way that makes sense for your use case or for your users across operations, maintenance, even supporting engineering, because now that we have a living model that's keeping current with the facility changes, we can also use that as part of that next turnaround or part of that next upgrade or revamp. And all of this really fills in and delivers that operational twin. I'll dig just a little bit deeper on the VR side, because this is an exciting a piece of digital twin is really being able to do things like remote support, design reviews, review things in a very immersive way. And I have to confess, until I really experienced a digital twin in that immersive environment where I could put the goggles on and really walk around inside the facility, I didn't fully grasp, how impactful that could be into my retention of the facility, my understanding of what's going on. And so inside of vSuite, we have Vizzy, our digital assistant, that can take the user from place to place and show you the procedures. And with a scenario builder, you can do this yourself and set up, how do I capture that knowledge and then share that with other users within my community. And so pulling all of this together, again, this really is the operational digital twin. This is how we've come together with GE to add value to not just what APM is, but other digital systems that you're using today. And things that you have planned going forward. So I think with that, I might turn it back to Vipin and see if you have any closing thoughts, Vipin, or if we want to open it up to some Q&A at this point.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, David. I think it's been really informational. And I think, again, it's important. When we started the journey, as you're aware, we started this journey with simple mechanical integrity use cases where the analyst can visualize the corrosion loop, the inspector can look at the thickness monitoring location. But once we discuss it with our end users, the opportunities are much big, right? They are already looking into from a turnaround planning. So we all know when it comes to a turnaround planning, the different types of information which is key for success, right? So you have to be aware of all corrective actions, which is like, say, clamp removal to any RBI-related recommendation of inspection. The span is so wide. So one is having that entire view of what needs to be done and what are the critical activities that you need to track, and managing that with the planner, right, to have a very optimized turnaround tool. That use case is pretty powerful, David, and I think you kind of delved into it, and I find it very powerful use case in general. So what we saw just as a reliability or an integrity use case, it can be expanded into an entire turnaround planning scenario, which I think is absolutely powerful. And I think with that, again, just wanted to get your perspective. Don't you think so? That is the power, right? Just be able to expand it from a small use case to that big a use case like a turnaround planning is pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what really initially, it surprised me initially, how our clients were going from, and Integrity was absolutely, the early adopters. These are the ones that understood, hey, these are the things I have to go and inspect. This is how I have to plan. And they could do it in an unprecedented way. We have clients that, again, that are saving, a couple hours a person in their Integrity group because they're able to get the data they need and get it done in a very efficient way. But what really initially surprised us was, and I guess it shouldn't have been a surprise looking back, is now that you have this intuitive platform, it really becomes a way of capturing that information, of sharing it, and then capturing knowledge. And so the turnaround planning, the regular maintenance activities, we have clients now using the digital twin to, capture their positive material identification. So as part of their PMI program, the model is extensible. And you can use this, you can do this on your own without programming. So we have asset attributes, this view that we're looking at here as part of Q&A, this is meant to represent, damage or corrosion rates. But similarly, we can color code the model based on other attributes that can be captured, like PMI or like health or other things. And then so these other use cases, really become rapid. We have a client that started in the integrity space. I think the last count, they have something like 32 different use cases they're using the same digital twin for. So we're not creating silos, we're actually breaking them down, we're bringing data together, and everybody's sort of looking at this twin because it truly becomes a reflection of what's in the facility in an unprecedented way, and that's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. I think if you don't mind, let's get into some question and answers. I can facilitate that if you're okay with that. So the first question is, there's a lot of competitors. Again, it's now coming up, right? This is the new buzzword about 3D digital twins. So a lot, they have the same capabilities, if you may. But what makes you different, or the Visionaize different in this perspective? How would you place yourself as a differentiator? Yeah.
I think it's the right question. Anyone looking at digital transformation, these are the things, and now digital twin is kind of all the buzz. And so what does it mean? How do I operate it? And so I think there's a couple of key areas that really makes us different. And I know it's why we came together as GE and Visionaize, because you've done the research yourself. And so I alluded to some of it before, but the ability to create that twin and have it be fully utilized in an operational setting, it really required a ground-up development and making a software that works in an intuitive way where you don't have to be an engineer or somebody with 10 years of 3D experience. Someone with a mouse that understands, oh, that's an exchange, or I can click on it. What's my APM reliability data? Show me that. Let's visualize it, and just being able to work with data in an intuitive way in these different role-based manners is what we deliver, that I think is different and better than other quote competitors, and then the ability to maintain and sustain that, as I mentioned, to create it and then keep it alive, keep it evergreen with the facility changes is absolutely critical. We can get a lot of value from a twin or from any sort of digital transformation, but if I can't keep it current with the data, then I begin to lose value and I lose trust in it. And so we spent a lot of time, making sure that we can maintain and sustain that model and then deliver it in a role-based way that I'm certain is unparalleled. And that's really part of what makes us different and why we're seeing so much traction with great marquee clients around the globe.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. I think that, again, the source of truth needs to be updated with the actual operational data that is coming for that asset at that point of time, right? So that you can take intelligent decisions based on that. Completely agree on that. I'll get into the next question on that. So just we'll keep moving. Again, what are some of the prerequisites? Again, the easy part is the end results, and we have always talked about it. The implementation is the tough part, right? So there's a question which asks, what are some of the prerequisites that you see are required for implementation?
Yeah. So I think certainly when we talk about a 3D digital twin, we need 3D data. And so we need some sort of 3D spatial model. And so if we have a 3D engineering model, that's a great way to start. And so we have a lot of clients that we'll talk to and say, well, I have a 3D model, but it's many years old and we've made a lot of changes. And so what's really, what I like to say to that is, okay, great, you have a model, and even if 30% of it is not accurate, that means 70% of it is. And so let's take advantage of the 70%. And then chances are we have a lot of clients that have also done a lot of laser scanning to support different revamps or different upgrades. And usually what happens is they're not capturing that data. They're leaving it with their EPC, or they're keeping it as part of that maintenance project. And so getting them to really understand that you have a lot of this data already, let's look for it, and then having a strategy that says, hey, this is important to me. I want to consolidate it in one place that I can then sort of build it once, use it many. And so having that data available and then making sure that it's part of the overall strategy to collect that whenever new information is gathered. I think the good news is that many managers and plant owners are realizing that this information is valuable for more than one thing. And what vSuite has done is enable them to put it in one place, regardless of the source, regardless of the format, and then use it for all the good stuff that we're talking about today. So that prerequisite, I think, first is making sure you've got it, and then capturing it. And if you don't, we can absolutely create it. We're working with folks in North America on a project, and we'll be rolling the entire thing out in just 45 days. Building the twin, doing the integration to something like 12 different systems. And so it doesn't take a long time. It just takes a little focus.
Oh, that was a good concrete answer in the last two lines. I mean, 45 days with 12 systems, that's not abstract. So I like concrete versus abstract, so thanks for that. So no one question from Anwar Khan here is, thank you for the question, Anwar, is can you explain digital twin for rotating machines? I know we touched about it. I think, why don't you take it, and I might add some flavor to it. Dave, go ahead. From a rotating machines, right? How do you look at it?
Yeah. So I think essentially, different kinds of equipment, whether it's rotating or fixed assets, they have different kinds of information. And so it really comes down to the kind of data that you want to extract. Do you want to look at vibration? Do you want to look at, performance? And so there's different kinds of information. And so what our job essentially is to step back and look at these assets in a more holistic approach. How is the system operating? So those are most of our use cases today. When we have complex assets, rotating equipment, of course, this can all be part of the digital twin, and we can drill in and get different kinds of information, IoT sensors, again, vibration, temperature sensors, all these kind of things. So Vipin, I think really it comes down to what do you want to visualize? How do you want to see it?
So I'll just add the APM flavor, right? So digital twin is obviously the twin of the actual asset, right? And when we get into the asset performance management, there are different types of data that we store within asset performance management, which starts with the basic asset strategy for that rotating asset, be it for that turbine, what is the strategy? So we do have the capability of doing an asset strategy management using the methodologies like RCM FME, which kinds of give you what is the best optimized strategy, which you can visualize, right? That's one. And the second is once those strategies put into place, you can have actions like condition monitoring or predictive analytics using smart signal. Now you can see the alerts, for example, that is coming out of those analysis or monitoring and visualize it again on the 3D digital twin. And the third is taking an action, right, which is a recommendation. So if you see something bad happening, how do you correct it? So you raise a recommendation and then you send a notification to your work order management system like an SAP. So you are kind of bringing all, right, risk development, kind of execution it, which is monitoring it, and taking, an action, which is a recommendation, which can be then executed into SAP. So you can visualize every element, again, the 360 view of that asset, even if it's a rotating asset on a 3D digital twin. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that flavor to it, Dave. Again, let's get into the next question. A lot of questions coming up. I think this question is from Smita Chowdhury, and the question here is, how do we know that any digital twin analysis is complete and comprehensive? Great question. I mean, I can take it, and Dave then It all depends.
Yeah.
So again, this is the final element, right? So contextual visualization is a key thing where you're bringing all the information. I think it goes back to how have you defined the asset strategy or the, for that asset, right? So when you're defining that strategy of that a kind of a written procedure, this is how I'm going to manage the strategies, this is how I'm going to monitor it, this is how I'm going to take actions, that needs to be defined in an application. And G-Digital provides you a platform to manage that, which is the, managing the performance of that asset. And so you have to, if you truly want to make sure your digital twin is complete and comprehensive, we have to ensure that you have a well-defined asset performance management strategy for that asset. Once that is defined, then basically, Visionaize will come here and kind of pull in all the critical information and help you visualize it. So that's one aspect that I looked into it. Dave, I don't know, you talked about other data sources too, which you can, like a data lake, right? Not only APM, but any data lake or document management system. Maybe you can add to that too.
Yeah, and I think that's an important piece of this is there's really no limit to the kinds of information that we can interoperate with or integrate with, and that extends to even more things like videos or image documents, and so any information that's available, we can use that model in that asset tag or its alias as a hook, and we can dig down and get to that. And I like the video example because maybe we can look at see a CCTV camera, understand what's happening with the flare, what's going on with asset movement inside the facility. So there's really, the limits are really where your imagination could take you in terms of different data types. And in the end, we consolidate the 3D spatial piece, and then we can facilitate access to all kinds of different information. Just in the example you gave earlier, we were looking at the integrity data, but we can drill down and go into health and documents, videos, other things.
Great. Just next question is from Kirk. Can you provide a high-level setup cost example from previous projects? I know, Dave, if you want to take it, kind of give a example at a high level, or you want to take it offline? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the short answer is it depends. I would get back to, what we've tried to do and what we've done, I think, a really good job of is delivering value at a start point. And that we have single use case at a very cost-effective way of delivering immediate value. And our clients are getting ROI within 3 or 4 months. And sometimes these are multiples, 200% and 300%. And so there's a lot of great value that can be achieved right away. And then as we scale up, of course, the cost would increase, maybe the schedule. And so I would say it depends. So the good news is that, go ahead.
No, I think I just want to add, and that's where we both are partnered, right? Dave, you mentioned about it. So we don't want to you don't have to start from an enterprise level, right? So between G-Digital and Visionaize, we have come up with this V-Suite starter kit, which is basically, you have, let's say you want to just monitor your most critical asset again, right? Let's say 100 of assets to set it up, and that's the best optimal cost point that we both have worked with, right? So that you can bring it to the market, the customers can take advantage of it, and then maybe scale it to an enterprise level. So that's, again, just to add to that point, the V-Suite starter could be a good starting point, right? Because it has got the best point to start, which then can be scaled up across the enterprise.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it scales. I'll just give me 30 seconds on the scaling. One of the reasons that it's very easy to do is the way in which we integrate are through what we call adapters, and these are tested, proven adapters that connect and interoperate with these different systems, like APM, et cetera. So once we have that install, it's easy to scale and deliver.
Okay. I think since we have just 1 minute left, I'll just take the last question. The question is about, can you talk a bit more about how V-Suite integration is done with source system? Also, are there limits to the type of data that can be integrated, that is video, et cetera?
Yeah, so I think we touched on that a little bit already, and that is these source systems, we have what we call integration adapters, and we have a really strong back end that allows us to interoperate or integrate with other systems if we don't have it already. And so This is again done through these adapters. If you remember the slide with the circle and the little arrows, that was meant to represent these adapters. It really comes down to configuration. You know, what asset information do you want to see? How do you want to see it? And then we can set up some predefined queries and visualizations that say, you know, show me the health, show me the reliability, or allow me to access the recommendation, et cetera. The same with videos and other things. We can, you know, add a camera or just a node in the model that says, you know, give me the CCTV feed when I click on this. So that's a high-level answer. Hopefully I hit that.
Yeah. I think, David, we have kind of come to the end of on the time. Nicole, I'll give it back to you. Again, I would like to thank everyone who have joined, again, given the time and joining this session. So.
Great. Thank you so much, David and Vipin, for your very informative webinar and very interactive Q&A session today. For those in the audience, I'd like to thank you for watching wherever you are and taking the time to listen in. If you'd like to listen to this webinar again, the session will be available on demand shortly. Remember to check out more of our upcoming events and on-demand webinars at oilandgasiq.com. And again, thank you so much, David and Vipin, and to all in the attendance, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.